Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype Episode 51, recording on Thursday, March 4th, 2021. We're going to be talking PlayStation controller patents and our top 5 controllers of all time, new Nintendo Switch, Microsoft Mesh. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name's Andrew.
Got to mix it up, including the year, which I don't do all the time, changing the order we do things. Got to keep everyone on their toes. That's what bad hosting is all about. So let's get right into it. Let's start with, I think, a news topic we can discuss quite a bit, which is the Microsoft Mesh. A lot of people talking about this. It's a sci-fi movie come to life technology. We gotta look. This is the future of meetings, the future of Zoom.
Game changer. You might say game changer.
I would definitely not say game changer. Very slow, game-altering climb that I just did in a shitty movie theater in Oculus Quest a few weeks ago. But anyway, let's break it down. We had a couple versions of things. You guys are probably more up to speed on it than I am. There was a basic trailer or demo that seemed to have this idea of being in other people's spaces, almost holographic technology, using at this point, I don't know if the future version of what they're projecting, pardon the pun, is what it's going to be, but, using a HoloLens 2 or equivalent in the future where everyone's in the same space, you can see other people, augmented reality, putting objects in scenes, creating a new environment potentially that people can share. A lot of talk about this, about the future of games or, a replacement or better version of VR. To be perfectly frank, I'm not buying it. What do you guys think about this technology and what you've seen this week?
Well, it's got a lot of potential, Frank. I will say
I've been hearing that for about 10 years. So I have not seen a major leap with this at all. And I know, people are saying, yeah, this is coming. The progress I'm seeing, I'm not seeing it coming. I remember 10 years ago having an augmented reality game for 3DS when it came out, like at Silicon Knights. This is cool. It really hasn't changed much. And I'll tell you what, that game got pretty boring really quick. And I'm guessing those Mario Kart Lives that everyone bought at Christmas are sitting under people's stairs right now. So whether this is actually fun for games is a different debate, but I'm kind of getting more and more skeptical. Sorry, I took over.
Well,
apologies.
Yeah, I mean, the game side of things is one thing. And I mean, yeah, I would agree that we've seen some dabbling in AR gaming. Haven't really seen, I mean, Pokemon Go is obviously the killer app. That was the one that really caught on, but we haven't really built on that. And they did come out with Minecraft Earth last year, or was it the year before? But nobody's playing it because of COVID. I kind of didn't even really know it was out there, and they just announced that they're shutting it down now in June. So it's kind of
Can
weird.
I add something to Pokemon Go? Can I?
Yeah.
Isn't it just the real world integration that's interesting about that game? Like the AR aspect is basically nothing. If it was just integrating with the real map where events happen in real time, and you didn't have the camera, that's like a polished thing. If it just happened on your phone, but you had to be in a physical location to do it, I think there's almost no difference in the result of that game.
I think most people disabled the actual AR
There you
component.
go. I didn't know
because
that.
it drained the battery. So you're kind of right. But this is what they showed is the potential, I think, to actually take it to that level where you could go with a bunch of friends and I guess it's unclear whose environment you would be in, or if you'd all just be in a virtual environment, but you'd be standing alongside your friends, seeing Pokemon in front of you and interacting with them, and that would be kind of cool. Obviously, they had a short video they showed of, Pokemon standing in front of the guy, and it was like, okay, like I don't know, it just was a very minor demo. There wasn't much there.
All of this falls under this umbrella of virtualization and, taking like buttons and changing them into physical reality, which I think the ultimate example of that was, Steve Jobs and, why would you want a stylus when I've got five on my body or five right here with his hand or something like that, right? Like that is a leap that makes sense to me. Like fingers are natural pointing devices, but this idea that manipulating information or interacting is always better through some approximation of reality, I don't think is necessarily true. And we're going to talk about our favorite controllers. Spoiler alert, I don't know if anyone has this on their list, but a lot of people who play games like keyboard and mouse the most, right? And it's not intuitive necessarily. Like a mouse is a pointing device that is very intuitive, but we don't feel the need to like touchscreens are not successful when it comes to computers for the most part, maybe for older people or for people with accessibility issues. I get it, but I don't think it's changed how we do things. Like there's a convenience of an iPad of, I think, the size and not needing a keyboard, but I don't know. I think this trend is always interesting. It seems cool from a sci-fi futuristic perspective, but I'm not seeing practical applications or a progress that is making me all that intrigued. If anything, I'm going backwards. I was intrigued, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to happen before I die, but that could be in 2 weeks. So.
Well, one thing, Apple's rumored to be working on a AR or VR headset. So once that comes out, I'm sure you'll be convinced.
If I know Apple, it's both. I would bet my life that it does both.
Probably. But I mean, they did show off some, like, really the announcement was not as much about gaming, more about it's this platform for collaboration. Like they showed the idea that you could have realistic 3D models of things that people could come together and both interact with. I mean, there's definitely potential there, I think. What did you check out the videos, Huck?
I did. I was originally impressed, but then after I kind of got over the marketing hype, I realized, oh yeah, this is all just CG to make it look better. And
mirrors.
Was that? Yeah,
smoke. A little bit of smoke and mirrors going on. Yeah,
exactly. And then I was thinking, really, like the only application that I think makes sense in gaming is that Pokemon style. Maybe like if you're big into LARPing or something, it would be awesome, where you can then battle, Dungeons and go do Dungeons and Dragons in a real space or something with your friends. Would be cool. But like every other application, I would think VR would be better as far as realizing a different world. It would only be if you want things in an actual environment with just little AR creatures or whatever, or objects like, Minority Report, where they...
Yeah, well, I think the sci-fi movie version that's actually interesting or would be useful is, I guess, what the Google glasses were. Like, providing information. Stuff like just having information, like, presented, overlaid over the world could be a powerful thing. Like, it's rather than having to search for things, or it's just, even your eyes being able to say, like, who knows, if you blink on something, it tells you something about it. That's like Terminator vision or something like that, right? Like that I could see being something that became commonplace in the future. In terms of games, I don't know if I see a future necessarily. The only good version I can think of this is like playing virtual Monopoly, like on a video game version, is better because it goes faster, or Risk or something like that. Because
no pieces to clean up.
Yeah, but it's less fun, right? Like you're just kind of watching stuff happen and seeing dice roll. So, if I can get Monopoly with a physical board where it like has people's, it does all the banking and it just tells me how much money everyone has. I think that's the only practical application for this in 20 years. Is that a hot take?
Monopoly is the killer AR app. You heard it here first.
Monopoly.
But even the aspects they were talking about with like the meeting and the collaboration stuff, I guess the fact that you can see the room you're standing in does give it a little bit of an advantage over VR in terms of not knocking into things. But I mean, the Quest 2 is pretty damn good at like giving you a safe space.
Amazing, yeah.
And if you cross over that boundary line, it'll instantly switch to the pass-through cameras, and you can see where you are. And in VR, you can have a way more immersive experience. Like they were showing the car, like looking at a car model or something. So I can understand that sort of aspect when you're like designing something and you're collaborating on a design like that. But like if you're doing like real estate or architecture, I would think VR would be much better because you can go, you know, upstairs, downstairs, any floor, any height really easily by jumping around with the jump. I mean, I guess you could do that in AR, but it might be less intuitive. And I don't know. I mean, I see some applications, definitely not many in gaming that I can think of. And I think maybe
And
it's
I know
just
what
like
people are saying
VR.
right now that think this is the next big thing. Like you're not seeing it 30 years from now. You're not seeing what it could be. Believe me, I can see what it can be, and I'm just not seeing the acceleration of like this technology getting better to get to that point anytime soon. If they could, they would. So everything is making me think if this is the progress we've made in 10 years, whatever problems they have are a lot harder to solve than we're giving credit for. Otherwise, I feel like we'd be there. And Apple's thing, I'm assuming, is going to be like the Oculus Quest, where it's going to be such a high quality display. I mean, there's rumors that it's like $7,000 American or something like that. Uh, it was just like a perfect crystal clear display that it literally just passes through reality to the point where it's like you're looking around, would be my guess as to what Apple's thing would be.
Well, I think the other thing that Apple could bring to the table, which is I think pretty important, these things look so like nerdy. Who's going to wear these out in public, right? But I think Apple might have what it takes to take something like this and actually make it look cool and make it look like something that people want and want to show off that they have in public. So
I mean, Apple's been putting, I think it's the LiDAR. Is it LiDAR? Is that what it's called?
Well, that's a type of radar. Is that
Isn't that the sensor that's in,
could be cars?
yeah, LiDAR scanner in the iPhones? And that's like their kind of embedded technology that they plan on like using for AR stuff in the future. And they do use it to some degree. I think like some, like vacuum robots might use it and stuff like that. But and they also have like really high speed, like they're implementing really small pieces of technology in all their hardware that I think they have big plans for. We'll see if that happens. I'm not saying that it's necessarily going to work or be good, but I don't know. This is, I like I said, in Oculus Quest 2, I went into a movie theater. There was a live tech demo of a meeting with, it's basically an avatar and someone else meeting in a space on CNET. I was just watching, and it's basically what I did in that cinema big screen. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I did it in big screen. I did it for a half an hour. It wasn't fun. Don't think I'd ever do it again. I'd much rather go to a movie theater. Like, what is beneficial other than, like Huck said, maybe looking at a 3D model of something if you're designing something? But, you know, eventually you're going to have to see if it works in reality. You're going to have to go into a physical space. It's all theoretical at that point. What benefit, like, I'm seeing you on a Zoom call right now. I'm seeing Huck. I'm getting 3 rooms at once, baby. It's better than just being here. We're in everyone's place at the same time. So I don't see why being in the same space is all that beneficial other than literally that special case of designing something in 3D and being able to point at things in a very specific manner. How often does that actually happen?
Well, it's kind of ironic because it's kind of like they just missed their window for this thing to be, you know, perfect, because during the pandemic, people, you know, I could see people really wanting to feel like they're in a room with their friends, and that could be something. But, you know,
I
once
feel like it's a motion
pandemic's
controller
over, I
thing
don't
here.
know.
Like motion controllers, these are huge. Everyone copied the Wii and all that stuff, and eventually, it's like, I just want a controller. Like, I know what I'm doing. This is a novel.
I mean, like, let's not.
We're
I mean,
communicating. What's great about it is being together is actually being together. If we're talking, what difference is it if it's like it's like we're in the same place? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I can
you
see them
gotta-
trying to. I was just gonna say, I can see them trying to package this into like Teams, like Microsoft Teams, as like, oh, you could also do virtual, like, you know, AR conferences or whatever, you know, as like another perk of Teams that, you know, Slack and Discord don't have or whatever. But I mean, then you have to make sure everyone has the proper equipment, which is another headache on top of that. So it doesn't seem that feasible. I can't imagine like corporations going out and buying, 10,000 HoloLenses. And also the HoloLens now too, the form factor, does it not look identical to the HoloLens we saw 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. But I think people would argue, and this is, well, in 10 years, it's going to be super small. It's just going to be a pair of glasses. Like, you have to think, futuristically when you're talking about the stuff. Now, one area that always we kind of neglect talking about this, where it could be applicable, is education, right? Like being able to teach people in the same space. But again, that requires a level of technology that is not even close to where we're at. Like if you wanted to help a student and be able to look over their shoulder and see what they're doing or comment on what they're doing, the quality of the camera and the resolution for you to be able to read their writing and actually accurately comment on that stuff is a whole nother level.
Well, and go ahead, Sean.
Well, that's what you were mentioning before the show, Huck. Like some of their promotional videos showed, appearing beside somebody in like a very photorealistic form. But I mean, the actual demos they showed, people were just cartoony avatars. So it seems like they're aiming for that photorealistic thing, but it's going to require some crazy technology to do it.
Yeah. And like from a guy who's been doing homeschool with the kids since last March or whatever, I must say, like, the camera works great because you can see the kids' facial expressions, like as a teacher, right? Like in that AR thing, you can't see any facial expressions. You can't tell if the kid's having a trouble in AR, but if they look sad, you'll pick up on it immediately in a Zoom call. If they're frustrated, you'll pick that up immediately. You'll be able to jump in and help them. Whereas like in AR, you're just dealing with a avatar and you can like kind of look over their shoulder, but it's not like the kid's going to feel you, over their shoulder. It's not like they're going to feel your presence other than maybe like 3D audio making the sound over top of them kind of thing. So I think like you were saying before, Frank, I think Zoom calls make way more sense for that kind of communication in the future myself. I mean, I was just gonna say, look what we're doing right now. Like this shit was ultra futuristic in the 80s. Like this was like the sci-fi of sci-fi shit. Like they had video calls and they were like in phone booths and shit. Like it was cutting edge. And now we're just like, oh yeah, we'll just have a 300 person Zoom call. No big deal.
I feel like there was versions of this like teleconferencing in the 80s. It's just become, super commoditizable. Is that a word? Like it's accessible to everyone now, right? And I just don't know if the accessible futuristic version of AR is all that compelling or more so than meeting in reality. And I think all of this stuff is being elevated and heightened because we are in the midst of a pandemic. But once vaccines come in, I don't know how often that's going to continue.
I guess one other small detail to mention, like, I guess, what is different about Microsoft Mesh other than, all the AR we've already seen. It's just a little better. But they did make mention that it's this platform that will work on different devices. So it's not like you have to have the HoloLens. Like the idea is that you can use a phone and you could take part. You would just be kind of like this flat portal into the virtual world. And you'd kind of be able to move around and you'd have this window into the portal, but you just wouldn't be like a 3D representation or something. So that's kind of interesting and kind of makes it more accessible. But right now it just feels like it's a big sudden, like they've been working on this stuff for years and now it's just kind of like marketing blitz for what? I don't know.
Yeah. What we need is John Carmack to stop working on his general AI that he's doing right now and just go full holodeck. It would solve all this problem and everyone would adopt the holodeck. Let's get real. That's where it's at.
You just need Carmack. That's the bottom line.
It. Of course. He can solve anything.
Yep.
This is another opportunity to bring up just a little side note. Microsoft's naming. It's Mesh. It was HoloLens. Like, what is it? Like, they're so bad at branding and naming their stuff. Like,
HoloLens is still the name of the device, though.
I get that's the device versus the technology. I get it, but you know, Internet Explorer became Edge browser. I feel like there was something else in between that I'm forgetting already. Was there another name for browser? Bing,
Bing.
Series X versus like Xbox is a good brand. I think it's held pretty steady. But other than that, they are awful at naming stuff and hooking people with names.
Xbox One X, Xbox Series X. Yeah. We've already talked about it.
Xbox is good. We have to give credit where others do. Xbox is a good name that has stood the test of time.
And Windows, of course.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's not I don't know if it's a great name.
Well, it was at the time. That was the whole
Maybe
thing.
it is. You know what? Because like Mac OS, that's not that sexy. I know they have their different versions like
Linux,
High Sierra,
Unix.
Catalina, all that stuff. But Windows, it's stood the test of time. I'll give credit to Windows too. Sure. Good call. Anyway, anything else to say about this slowly emerging technology?
Nope.
Okay. Let's talk about on the technology front, rumors of a OLED Switch coming this year with a bigger screen, with a Samsung OLED display, better processing when output to a TV from what I've seen, although this is pretty foggy. Seems a little strange to me, like that they would not have a new console or a new version. They're already lagging behind severely technology-wise. And, these games that are being ported are not that hot. Like, the ports are not that great. Even the Skyrim port, from what I've seen, not that impressive. So if this is their plan for the next 3 years, while companies are shipping PS5 and Series X titles, seems like it might be a weird in-between step. I'm surprised they're not just going to announce a new Switch, but I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, this has kind of become the pattern, right? Like they will put out a few versions of a console before they do sort of the next gen console. And I mean, the Switch is selling well. Sales keep going up. It seems like that would be.
But this feels more like
time to abandon it.
The trend you're saying, Sean, I think is true for their portable devices. It's never been done for an actual home console other than like a smaller, more refined version, right? Like this is a little different with portable devices because, screen technology gets better. There's different configurations of size that are interesting, which we've seen with the Switch Lite or something like that. But this is weird because it's their actual console and it's portable. So, there wasn't a lot of competition in the portable console space. So there is a lot of competition in the home console space. So I think I don't know if it's going to be that great. I'm obviously going to buy one because I'm a piece of shit, but whatever it is, I'm going to buy it. Got to use those Optimum points, right? This is the perfect chance to use Optimum.
Well, I guess we should say, I mean, they did already release one iteration of the Switch as well with the Switch Lite, right? So there's actually
that?
What?
I think I said that, right?
Oh, maybe you did. But yeah, I guess I was already thinking like this is just their first new iteration on it, but it's not. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, did they not release like an updated version of the Wii? Like I feel like
I don't
they had
think
a
so. I think just the
integrated Wii
Plus.
Motion Plus. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
There was just, I don't even think there was a different form factor for the Wii. It was just different colors.
So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe that's all it was. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's, I mean, how long has the Switch been out for now? It feels like it's not, based on how long console life cycles generally are, it doesn't feel like it's time, but.
It'll be 4 years yesterday it was 4 years.
Okay. I mean, the Wii U obviously was a bit of an exception. They kind of just cut their losses on that one, but I don't know. I'm
cut our losses when we can just release those same games again for $80.
But I mean, in a way, like, so they're getting the 4K output. That's kind of the big thing that a lot of people thought the Switch was lacking. I mean, I guess you're just suggesting that why not have like better processing power as well? Is that
It's inevitable. It just seems like a weird thing to put off for another 3 years. Like it made sense in terms of when they released the Switch and what people have come to expect from console life cycles, where it used to be like 4 or 5 years. Now it's, 7 to 10 typically. And when they released, they were mid-cycle on PS4 and Xbox One. So it's like, yeah, we can kind of work in the same technology space. But
Oh, hang on. Do you think they're not going to upgrade it? They're going to have to upgrade it.
at some point, that's why I'm like,
No,
why?
with this version, they're going to have to.
I
You
don't.
can't just like upgrade upres to 4K without speeding
yeah,
everything
I think that's
up.
a good point. I mean, I think there is. I did read something about some kind of updated processor,
I
but
think you're talking about higher res textures and just the amount of processing to get that 4x image size on the GPU. Like, there's just
I
no
thought
way.
the 4K stuff. I mean, obviously on the OLED screen, it's not as big a deal. It's still a bit of a deal.
On the OLED, I heard it was still 720p.
Okay, and then yeah, all the processing in the articles I read, all the 4K stuff only applies to on a television, right? So all that
Yeah.
processing boost would be in the hub or whatever it is, not in the console itself.
That
Or something like that. And everything I've seen has seemed to indicate that it is not like a new. Well, I guess it's like a new DS Lite, but not in terms of games working and not working on different versions or like weird compatibility versions. But I mean, this is so nebulous. It's a Nintendo rumor, and we're talking about it like it's a
yeah, I mean, I can't believe it being in the hub. I can't believe that. There's no way.
It might not even be real. We might be talking
True.
about something
Yeah, this could be a big waste of time.
well, I mean,
Probably
it
is.
seems pretty feasible that something's coming out for Christmas. That's not hard to believe. And I guess the rumors come from, is it Samsung that they're partnering with, are doing the screens or something?
That's the rumor.
Here's a hot take. Breath of the Wild 2 will not run on old versions.
Well, it'll run. It'll just be almost unplayable, like Hyrule Warriors on original DS or some of those games. Like, I can't wait till when Nintendo had those controversies. It was kind of like in a different space of social media and like everyone being really upset about everything when companies screw them over. I want that to happen in today's landscape to see how it goes for Nintendo. Because they
Yeah.
somehow escape all of this stuff where everyone is talking about class action lawsuits for PlayStation for like controller issues. The Nintendo controllers seem to just kind of get by. Oh, put a piece of styrofoam in. It's not a problem. What are you complaining about? Anyway.
Well, there was a lawsuit though, wasn't there, against Nintendo?
Shit, man.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the one thing too people are talking about that it's 720p. The supposedly, according to the rumor, the 720p for the screen when you're playing in handheld mode, which I guess would be to save, like, improve battery life. But it seems to me like it's more targeted towards the 4K is the feature. Like it's like, hey, if you're playing this at home on your TV, you want 4K, here you go.
I've never looked into this. What do you think the markup or profit margins are on a Switch at this point? Like on the console itself. They've got to be pretty high.
You think?
I think oh yeah, I think they make a lot of money when they sell a Switch.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think Nintendo's would be higher than Sony and Microsoft.
It's pretty
'cause
old
they're
technology.
borderline.
They've probably refined it over time. Like I would not be surprised if there's like a huge profit margin on the consoles.
They've always said Microsoft and Sony are borderline losing money on
That's when they
the
ship.
console sales.
When they
right?
ship. I don't
Yeah.
think that. And maybe they were close to breaking even when the Switch originally launched, but at this point, I bet they are making some sweet bank on console sales. That's pure speculation, but I just was curious if you guys had ever heard anything about what that might be.
No.
No, but I mean that's kind of like been Nintendo's strategy all along. Like, don't try to compete at the high end. Just try to do something innovative and different, and
They're a
They
game
probably,
company, right? They make, or a toy company. They make toys and games.
yeah.
All right. Well, like it's a pretty cheap. Like it's not bad, but like construction wise, like the plastic on the Joy Cons is pretty cheap. I'm not impressed by them. The screen is okay. Like, let's get real. Uh, anyway, moving on. I don't
Yeah,
think
but
we have another.
let's hang on. The plastic is not what they're paying for. They're paying for the processors and the OLED
Oh, I
screen.
get that, but even those are. I don't think
Even if they,
$400 or that's Canadian, but I don't think it's worth what.
but even if they upgrade to the nicest plastic in the world, it's only going to cost like an extra $2.
I want to see better plastic for the next
I do.
Switch.
I would like to see metal, to be perfectly honest.
Well, that'll be more for sure.
Yeah.
Aluminum.
I gotta hate on the Switch. It's what I do. Now let's get into our feature today. Our top 5 controllers of all time. We recently did our favorite consoles of all time. This is kind of the same territory. I've been crushing on the Series X controller big time. We are simpatico.
Time to find out where it ranks.
We will find out where it ranks on this list. I'm buying them up like crazy. Just like, you know what? Over here, just for the hell of it. Let's put one in my hands. It just feels good. It just feels good to put it in your hands. It is a nice controller. It is a wonderful thing to hold. But, you know, Sony had this patent thing, this news announcement where you could turn anything. I think it's a banana in the article I saw that you could turn into a controller. Seems related to VR in some sense. I know very little about it. I care very little about it. Do either of you have anything to add on this before we get into the controllers?
No, I was reading up on like this patent and some of the other recent patents for PS. People think it's for PSVR 2 and stuff like something that puts a scent out into the air and stuff. Like there's some weird stuff they're playing around with, but who knows?
I mean,
None
that's
of this
just
stuff
patenting,
is-
right? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Some
It's like, yeah, we
potpourri.
had this idea. I can turn my kingpin bowling pin into a controller and use it for every game. Of course, I would do that. I would cherish that opportunity.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Maybe something. The idea is in VR, you hold an object that's like the thing you actually use in the game, and that somehow enhances the experience. I don't know.
I can't wait until they actually release this, and then YouTube is just filled with people playing like dildo controllers all over the place. It's gonna be great.
Probably will happen.
Of course it will.
And I've been watching a bit of Mythic Quest. Is it TTP in the first episode? Time to penis or?
Oh yeah.
Good show. Good show.
I'm only 2 episodes in, but it's okay. Anyway, top 5 controllers. Who wants to get us started with number 5?
I'll go first. I mean, I started off with kind of a weird one because it's not one I ever really used that much. But I'm going to give a shout out to the Dreamcast, which I think had a pretty innovative, ahead of its time controller. And
Is this our most innovative features in controllers ever, or is this our favorite controllers? Because if you haven't used it, I don't know if it's one of your favorites.
I've used it. I didn't have a Dreamcast at the time it came out. I got it years later, and I've played games with it, but not a lot. But I think it is surprisingly for that generation. It feels good in your hand, and it had that cool, like those what were they called? Those
VMU,
cartridges,
virtual memory units.
yeah, they had like a display on them, which was kind of ahead of its time, having an actual like display on the controller. But you could also take them out and use them as like a little mini handheld game as well, which was kind of crazy. Now, the one thing that is not good about the Dreamcast controller, which I just read about and forgot, the cable comes out the bottom. So it's like you're holding it in your hands and it loops back around to get to the TV, and it's just awkward and weird.
Huge.
I was hoping you were going to start pulling these out every time somebody mentioned one, Frank. You got to have one on your
I
shelf.
could. The controllers are actually not in this room. All the consoles are, but the controllers are in drawers upstairs. So,
Oh, well, I've got a few others beside me here, but I didn't have a Dreamcast one handy.
I have about 10 upstairs. You need to grab one.
I could go next. The Dreamcast controller is not on my list, unfortunately, but I got to go with my number 5, the Oculus Quest 2 controller things, that whatever you call those, 2 handheld thingies. I find them pretty comfortable. When you're in VR, they're very natural to use. I find the pointing works fine, and I like them better than the Move controllers.
That's what I always look for in a controller, that it works fine. It works just fine.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if it's because I started with the Move controllers, but I find the Quest ones or Oculus ones pretty unintuitive. The pointing, like the way you point and the 2 triggers, I'm not a fan of it all. Gonna be honest.
What about how it can read your fingers and articulate that? No needle move on that.
Needle is still perfectly still. But I think it's a bit of a learning process. So I'm not going to say it's not possible, just not how I sharpen my VR skills. It's not what I grew up on VR. My number 5, I don't feel too passionately about this one, but it's kind of a controller that's been forgotten. The original Xbox Type S. Which had a very nice small form factor. Felt like at the time when it was released, I was like, this is kind of what I've always wanted a controller to be. It felt very, very natural, nice size. I have small hands. This, again, is not the most innovative controllers. It's just the ones that I like the feel of in my hands the most, that I associate positive memories. And
so your list is favorite controllers, my list is best controllers. Is that what we're getting at here, Frank?
These are my top 5 favorite controllers of all time.
My list is best and favorite combined into an ultimate list.
Interesting. Okay.
Number 4.
Okay, my number 4 right here.
Oh, he's picking it up. It's the Glop. Oh no, it's the DualShock 4.
DualShock 4, which I will. Glop gets an honorable mention. Actually, did you guys see there's a new one that's very similar that is suddenly picking up steam. I can't remember what it's called, but a bunch of different people were plugging it. Hang on, I gotta find
Frank's
this.
losing it. Oh.
I'm guessing while you say picking up steam, I'm guessing the Steam controller is nowhere near anyone.
No, I mean, I've never tried one, but
I've tried it.
oh damn it, I can't find. Like, I saw like 3 or 4 articles this week about this other controller that is basically the same as the Razer Kishi and the Glap, and now all of a sudden it's a cool new thing. So hey,
Decided to
the Glap was there first, and
what do we say for the
anyway, DualShock 4. I'm not a fan of the earlier PlayStation controllers, so spoiler, they will not be on my list. But I thought with the DualShock 4, they finally got it right. They've got the touchpad on the front. I think, it's not used that much, but it's kind of a cool thing. I like just
whoa. Spoiler alert. Let's not gleam over that touchpad. The innovation there is not that it's a touchpad. It's the idea of having a huge button for like your map. And
I was just going to say, yeah, I
would
do
say
love
it's
that.
the most, well, not the most. It's used a lot. Like in any open world game, having that huge button that I can just kind of get over to and open the map is amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You kind of dismissed it. It's a huge revolution.
Yeah, and I like the feel of it. I like the analog sticks on this one. The triggers are beautiful. You got the nice colored
Light bar
light.
is amazing.
So yeah,
Not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed it wasn't the Glap.
Honorable mention. That's all I'm gonna say.
My number 4, Sean's numero uno, a classic Commodore 64 joystick. You cannot go wrong. A single red shaft, white button on top, little red button on the side. You can't get better. The flight sticks these days with their 86 buttons, you don't need that shit. All you need is that one on top, the one on the side. You're good to go. Now,
It's a very satisfying like click on the white button on the
oh,
top
of
of the
course.
Commodore.
Now, it may have been a blister-inducing monster of a controller because you didn't really have any, great control of it, but, it was great.
I
Can't go
remember
wrong.
enjoying that joystick as well.
Oh, yeah.
I remember like the transition from joysticks to gamepads and like playing, the original Nintendo at a friend's house and just being like, what the fuck? How does this thing work? Like, it just seemed so weird to me. And now it's like, does anybody, I mean, I guess joysticks still for arcade games and stuff, but
Well, flight sticks, basically.
yeah, that's true.
That's
Is it me?
it. Mm-hmm.
It is me. My number. Are we only on number 4? Jesus Christ, this is taking long.
Pick it up, boys.
Monster juice. Juice in it.
My number 4 is the Nintendo 64 controller. I love the form factor, the different configurations, introducing the idea of what would become a right analog stick to some degree. I love like the handles for the D-pad version, and I like it for the analog version. So I have a lot of fond memories of the Nintendo 64 controller, and it quite frankly could have been higher on this list. But if I'm actually thinking like my favorite controllers, if I could play a game with any controller, I don't think I would use this one, but I I guess this is leaning a bit on the innovation side of things and appreciating it for its innovation at the time.
There it is.
So
Nostalgia.
I'll just jump right in and say it's my number 3. I didn't know if I would be the only one to have it on my list. I feel like a lot of people think this thing's a piece of junk now, but it was revolutionary, the analog stick. First controller with a rumble pack, which became a standard feature. And, I remember being able to, like, early first-person shooters like GoldenEye just kind of used the analog stick, and it was a little weird, but I remember playing Duke Nukem, I think a couple other ones where they had the yellow D-pad buttons on the right side and the analog stick, so you had sort of like dual.
I think GoldenEye had that option. No one really used it though.
Really? I don't remember that, but so yeah, I mean, it was kind of the start of having sort of dual analog sticks, I think. So
Speaking of GoldenEye, total tangent. Did anyone try the leaked GoldenEye Xbox 360 game?
No.
no, I saw the articles, but
I tried it. It's pretty fun still, and it's
yeah.
nicely up-res and everything. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, my number 3 is the Xbox One S controller, the white one. Beautiful form factor. Love the 2 analog sticks. That's it. Feels good.
I'm just realizing how boring my list is. It's basically all the same controller. Like it literally is the same. It's just how I like to play games, and it's slightly better versions of the same thing, including their crucial evolutionary phases. So I didn't intend that when I made this list, but looking at it, it's an embarrassment, and it's an embarrassment to be perfectly honest.
The juice factory is flowing today, okay?
My
Don't
number
worry about it.
3 is the GameCube controller, which is just an evolution of the Nintendo 64 controller. But I still love the form factor. I low-key kind of love the shoulder buttons, like that. I don't know if they're actually practical the way you press them in, but they feel good. There's a softness. There's a comfort in those little shoulder buttons that I just love. So, and I like that big A button. I love that the A button is huge compared to the other things, because that's the one you use the most. I don't know if it's actually good, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, I thought about that one. I mean, it's a little weird how the other buttons are arranged around it, but it was pretty solid, I think.
You use the A button a lot though in games. Like
Nintendo is all about those simple games that you just need one button, right? So
I'm surprised that didn't stick. Well, maybe I'm not surprised it didn't stick. But like,
okay, my number 2, right here.
Ooh.
DualSense
Fresh off
going
the presses.
going with the latest gen, and I gotta say, I mean, I haven't had the any of the issues that some people apparently have been having. I think it feels great. I love the addition of the haptic stuff. I mean, I'm more and more am growing to love that aspect, and when it's not there, I miss it. I love the microphone built in. That's pretty cool.
Hate that.
Uh,
I really do.
love the look of it, and obviously still has the touchpad in the middle, and
The fact by default I have to say turn my microphone off, which turns a light on the controller to say that it's off, which is draining the battery faster in the state I want it to be in, is a bad design feature. And that controller is nowhere near my list. I think it's what seemed cool on a first touch has just
this
gotten...
guy has gone full Xbox, like in the span of a couple months here.
For controllers, 100%. The DualSense, the buttons are really like mushy is the best way to describe it. Like I do not get nice pop, 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 pop. It's like they honestly all feel different on my controller. Like those pads underneath the buttons have an inconsistent feedback level. And I've got to say, I am not impressed with the DualSense at all.
Sorry to hear that, Frank.
It looks like a piece of shit too.
Got a hot war brewing here.
Beautiful piece of art.
Hot war? We're doing a hot war?
Yeah, you guys going off on each other. Anything else to add there, Sean?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. My number 2 is the old trusty mouse and keyboard. Perfect for first-person shooters. Perfect for murder by numbers. Perfect for any game.
Perfect
like
for murder. Whether it's by numbers or by guns, it's perfect.
Exactly. It is perfect for murder. Yes, that is a great way to describe it. You want to solve a murder in a text adventure? Perfect. Perfect in every way. Can't go wrong. Other than the carpal tunnel you might get. But other than that, perfect.
It is a timeless input device that we all cherish and use every day.
The question is, what's your favorite keyboard and mouse model? Brand and model?
No idea. I have no idea.
Like my list is, I guess my list is that. It's just my list is controllers. I like controllers. Like you're basically, like isn't it a specific controller? Good point, Sean.
You can't just say keyboard and mouse.
You saying a Hot Wars brewing? I like that point. Point to you. Go around the horn here. Number 2, people might be anticipating. This is my number 1. That I'm in love with this thing. It's getting hot and heavy, but it's just not number 1. It's the Series X controller, which is the best of the new consoles, but not an all-timer yet. It's close. It's number 2. It's not the all-timer. But I love the D-pad. One of the best D-pads ever. All the grip features, the subtle grips on the triggers, the handles, the analog sticks.
God, get a room already with it.
Like I said, it's getting hot and heavy. It is a fantastic controller. Just not the best of all time.
Now I'm real curious.
I'm interested to hear. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I already did spoiler alert. I said anyway.
Don't spoil it.
You should know what my number 1 is. It's not even close.
All right. Well, my number 1 coming in right here. Xbox 360 controller, which I think, I just feel like this one set the standard, and it was kind of like had the perfect feel, had the perfect layout for everything, and every controller that has come after it has kind of just iterated on it. I think the DualShock 4 kind of was borrowing from this. I remember at SK when we were working on Too Human, and they brought in like a plastic prototype of just the shape of this thing. And everybody was like, I got to hold it. This feels amazing. And it's true. It does. So, hey, I still use this thing for a lot of PC gaming when I do play on PC. I love it.
I must say also, like, it's not on my list, but that controller and the DualShock 3, which are the same generation, the introduction of Bluetooth, game changer. You no longer were tethered to the system. That was amazing.
Sorry, it's my number 3. It's the Wavebird for GameCube, bud. Not
What?
Wavebird, the wireless controller for the game.
Wavebird?
They did it first.
Oh, did they? Oh, okay.
It wasn't
My mistake.
wasn't Bluetooth though, was it?
Well, not Bluetooth. That's true. That's true.
Well,
And I guess there
I said-
weren't there like IR versions of even NES controllers or something like that?
Well, I mean, I guess if you count like the gun, the gun
I
and
thought
the
there was
super
a game,
scope
like,
and all that stuff.
you could get an adapter, and there was like wireless NES controllers. Why do I have?
Yeah, it sounds kind of familiar.
But that's a good point, Huck. Bluetooth is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think so. My number one, spoiler alert, I think, because I didn't discuss it pre-show with you guys. I just thought of it. The PlayStation Vita. Perfect. You got the
This guy's
touch
going
screen.
way outside the box.
You
here.
got the touch screen. You got the back touch. You got a nice form factor on the buttons. You got the dual analog sticks. You got the shoulders. You got everything you could ever want on that thing. Sony ditching the Vita, biggest mistake ever.
You got no argument
Drop,
from me.
drop the mic.
All right. Well, my number 2 is the Series X controller. I like the thought, Sean, the number 1 360 controller, but it just can't happen. It's impossible. Number 1, shoulder buttons are inherently inferior. They suck in general. They've improved, but the shoulder buttons on DualShocks and all variations of DualShocks are vastly superior to the shoulder buttons on any Xbox controller. And on the 360 controller, Sean, the D-pad, it is just not good. It is a bad D-pad.
Just never use it. That's
The number 1 controller of all time is the DualShock 4. Now, there is some personal preference here. It fits my hands absolutely perfectly. There has never been a controller that is the perfect size for my hands. The triggers feel absolutely perfect to me. I love the touch bar button. I love the light bar. I generally like PlayStation dual analog sticks. I like the microphone. Sean didn't mention the microphone. I think the microphone is underutilized on those controllers. And it's just as good as it gets. Sorry. It's the winner. Will always be the winner. You're both wrong. DualShock 4, best controller ever made.
You said microphone. You mean speakers, built-in speakers?
Yeah, I did mean speakers.
A little confused, but it's okay.
I meant speaker. Thank you, Sean. I made fun of you for saying microphones were good on controllers.
Well, okay. So a couple things. None of us mentioned the Xbox Elite controller.
I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm not.
You're not gonna. I mean, some people swear by it. I've never really tried it, so I can't
Never
say.
used it either.
For the money, I don't think it's that big of a difference, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
I bought one, of course. I have to buy everything, but someone was coming to me like, do I need that? Unless you really need those bumper things at the back, like that gets you off or something, go for it. Otherwise, forget it. Just get a regular. When this thing's on sale in Canada for $59.99, buy 4. You're good for a couple months.
And what? No mention of Joy-Cons or Wiimotes.
Certainly not.
I mean, yeah, I'm not.
And I actually would disqualify the Nintendo Switch Pro controller from being on my list because it's basically making you pay $100 for a controller that you can actually play games with on a system. So fuck you again, Nintendo. And it's not even that good either. I'd much rather use a Series X controller than than a Switch Pro controller. It's not bad. It's the best Pro controller Nintendo's ever made. But I saw that on some lists I looked up before. Get real. This Nintendo bias is obscene.
And I guess did we have any pre 3D controllers? I guess
3D?
Commodore 64 joystick. I just mean like before, like pre N64.
Look, I like the romanticism of putting an NES controller or a Genesis 6 button, but we have to get real. These are the best controllers of all time.
They're all pretty terrible. SNES is okay, but
the shoulder buttons suck. They are not in a comfortable position. Sorry. It was a great controller at the time. You did not enjoy using the shoulder buttons to the point where I didn't even use them. They were so uncomfortable. Like the spinning jump on Mario World, using them. Gross. It's so gross. Stop. No one uses it. Oh, it's the worst.
Okay. Well, there you go. Let us know your top controllers out there.
That was good. That was the most fun I've had all day. All right, are we getting into what we played? We're already at an hour.
Yeah, I think we have to.
Sure, I can go first.
Go ahead.
I have nothing.
Huck, have you been dipping into the the rye and ginger or what?
This is straight vodka, boys.
It's a little loose
tired. Just very tired. Actually, I have not had a single drop of booze tonight. Pure sober.
Wow.
Wow.
That's the problem.
Okay. Something's wrong.
Okay, well, do you want to talk Maquette, Frankie?
Let's do it.
So this is brand new on PlayStation Plus this month. It is a PS5. Is it only on PS5 or is it also?
I believe
PS4?
there's a PS4 version, but I am not 100% sure.
It might be like, I don't know if it's like Bug Snacks where only the PS5 version is free, but
I believe that's the case.
So it's kind of a puzzle game, which I was intrigued by. And I played maybe an hour, I would say, and didn't get very far, but I got a sense of what the main mechanic is. I got a sense of the style and aesthetic of the game. And I guess the first thing to mention is that mechanic.
Well, I got a sense of the mechanic too when I played it a year and a half ago in A Fisherman's Tale. So I was very familiar with the mechanic.
Yeah, so the mechanic is that there's sort of these recursive worlds. So there's a smaller version of the world that you're walking around in, and you can manipulate objects and take them between the two to make them bigger and smaller. Exact same as...
What's the term for that? Like the infinite, like looking into a mirror infinitely? Is there a term for that?
Recursive, I don't know.
Yeah, recursive.
Hall of Mirrors or Room of Mirrors or something like that. I don't know.
Recursive.
Yeah, it's very similar to Fisherman's Tale. And it's interesting because, Frank was commenting about this before the show, but just it's not being mentioned anywhere, which, I mean, I guess is mainly because a lot of people haven't played Fisherman's Tale. It's a VR game.
I had not even heard of this game at all, actually. I didn't even know what you guys were talking about.
But like when Mario got reviewed, did people talk about that, Pac-Man World or whatever it was had come out already? That was a platformer. Like, I don't know. I came in hot saying it's a rip-off of Fisherman's Tale, which it is to some degree, but that's a gray area as well. Like, who knows who came up with it first? It's not like it's impossible for two companies to come up with this idea individually or independently and stumble upon the same ideas. So I'm not saying I think like, oh, people should be saying this all the time. Like this is this is thievery or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing with games where once something gets established, it's a new genre or like, what is it? Is it, I mean, it's a little too soon to be an homage or inspired by. I think that's the reason why it's a weird comparison because they're so close together. To be honest, from what I've played, I prefer A Fisherman's Tale. I'm kind of a cynical asshole. I'm not crazy about the story. I prefer the kind of I wouldn't say harsh, but there's like a coldness and style to A Fisherman's Tale that is just something I like more aesthetically. I appreciate the aesthetic style of A Fisherman's Tale more. To be honest, the fact that I've played a lot of A Fisherman's Tale and then went to do this and the puzzles weren't that intuitive to me or interesting is kind of a shock. So I found A Fisherman's Tale better in almost every way from what I've played so far. But it's not to say this game's bad. I do like the art. I think the art is nice. The voice acting's pretty good for the most part. I don't know if I love the writing, but that's more a personal thing too. Uh, I did like some of the puzzles I did. Like a lot of the puzzles seem to be their take on A Fisherman's Tale, but they seem to be backtracking heavy. Like one of the first things the game introduces is the idea of backtracking, as far as I can tell. Like going back to get a key through two doors. It's telling you you have to go back and reuse things in a different context at the same time, which I don't remember if Fisherman's Tale did that did that as well. I'm not sure. It might have. But I don't know. I found the puzzles more intriguing in A Fisherman's Tale, even the early ones, and I found the world more interesting.
Yeah, and I thought like the story in A Fisherman's Tale felt more in tune with that main mechanic. Like I wasn't, and again, I've only
100%.
played like an hour, but the mechanic just feels like on the side to the story, which is about this love story and set in San Francisco. So there's a lot of references to San Francisco locations. There's music from a lot of San Francisco bands, things like that. And apparently the voice acting is Bryce Dallas Howard and Seth Gable. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah,
And publishing, right?
yeah, and I like the look of it quite a bit as well. But I also did find it a bit like I maybe I should have known. Like I went in just knowing it's a puzzle game, and it took me a while to clue in that it was this recursive thing. And then I was like, oh wait, I think I did read that somewhere. And then like things start to click, but they don't even really introduce that idea to you, as far as I could tell.
I got I got a trophy for changing the size of an object, and I didn't even know what I did. I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
like what?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
way to go. I mean, it's better in VR as well. Like there's a button thing where you like press circle a bunch of times to put it where you're holding it versus extending it versus dropping it, which is so clunky. Like it, like how does this exist in a game? Why am I not just like holding a trigger or something to extend or pull back or do something like that? To be honest, that was clunky in A Fisherman's Tale too. Like how like the spacing of VR, you could like there was a telescopic thing in that game that I was not crazy about, but it was better than this. Being able to freely manipulate objects to get them to fit is not that good with a controller. And like one of the earliest puzzles where you place a bridge felt off. Am I doing this right? Like it didn't feel like it lined up nicely. It wasn't locking.
Yeah.
It's not that great.
Can I jump in and say once again how fucking atrocious the PlayStation Store is? I clicked on this game to find some information about it, and I met with a wall of text. Not a single screenshot for the game other than the little banner at the top. This is for every game. I clicked on a bunch of games. There is no screenshots or videos on the PlayStation Store for any of the games they're trying to sell. It's just a wall of text. How do they expect to sell any games like that? You're not selling a book.
I mean, I have weird issues too, where on mobile, when I go to their website, like the PlayStation Store, half the time the buy button is not there, or it's like grayed out. There's just all these weird things.
I am a PlayStation fanboy, and my purchase rate of stuff has drastically gone down because of the store. Like they must be seeing declining sales. It seems inevitable to me because I'm probably buying at a rate of like less than half of what I used to buy. It used to be so easy to go to the weekly deals, and I was like, yeah, give me that, put it, whatever. I never play it. Who cares? Throwing money away. I do not do that anymore. I'm like, this store sucks. I don't even. It's not even fun to be here. It used to be fun just to be here and party in the store and spend money for no reason. Now you're killing me. Anyway, Maquette, it's not like offensive or anything like that. It's
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you never played A Fisherman's Tale, it's kind of a cool mechanic, and I think people would really dig it.
I agree.
And to be fair, I did read an interview and they said they brought like a demo of this game into some conference in 2011. So they've been working on it for quite a while.
Yeah, and I mean
Oh,
that could very well be true, right? Like maybe Fisherman's Tale somehow copied that. I doubt it. I bet they both came up with the idea independently. So I'm trying to leave that out of my criticisms. I just think as it is, I like the world of A Fisherman's Tale better. I like the VR interaction versus controller interaction. I think is clumsy in the game. Art style is good, but I might finish it because it seems really short. But I didn't finish A Fisherman's Tale, so what does that say about both of them? And what does that say about me? I'm a complete piece of shit.
also,
Back under the visor.
this is a really poor thing to name your game, because apparently there's a application called Microsoft Maquette, spelt I believe exactly the same. And so now when I search for Maquette, it almost always comes up with Microsoft Maquette. So I can't even find the game by just searching the name.
Yeah, I get the game all the time. So
Do you?
yeah, maybe
Nice.
you're searching Microsoft stuff all the time. It's
I
catering.
must be fanboying out.
He's been watching.
Okay, I
Microsoft
got it.
Mesh videos all day.
When I searched just the name, so I was trying to search I searched just Maquette and it came up with the Steam link, but then it said that it's on Windows. So then I searched Maquette Windows because obviously I'm not going to buy it on PlayStation 5, and then it showed me the Microsoft version.
Mm.
So if anyone's trying to buy it on Windows, it's going to be tricky.
Oh, one thing I will say I loved about it, like let's put some positives out there. I'm walking so fast. Like they could have slowed down the walk. I'm walking at a blistering speed. Thank you. Thank you for doing that rather than like controlling the pace.
Yeah, it's huge.
Although the jump height is so small. It's like but I need to like it's weird.
Yeah.
Just feels like a game everyone's going to say is amazing and it's okay.
Okay.
The animation stuff is cool though, like when they're drawing in their sketchbook.
Yeah, I did like that.
That looked really awesome. But I would much rather return to A Fisherman's Tale.
Do it.
I might. Doubtful.
So I got one other thing. Do you have anything else there, Frank?
Just plugging away at Neo 2 and slowly but surely getting there. And
Nice.
Call of Duty. A lot of Call of Duty.
So I tried out a game this week called Ultimate Chicken Horse. Anybody heard of this?
I don't think so.
So it's kind of like a little party game, I guess I would say. And it's I don't really know what to describe it as. Like I've seen comparisons to sort of Mario Maker, I guess, in a way, but it's almost like if Mario Maker was a competitive thing. So the idea is you get a level that you're trying to get your character from one side to the other to reach a checkpoint or a flag. And every round there's a bunch of different obstacles and traps you can choose from, and you get to place one, and then your opponents get to place one. And sometimes you can get something like a bomb that erases an obstacle that someone else placed, or you can put like glue on top of something somebody else placed. And so you kind of end up together building this platforming level with traps and obstacles, and then you play it and you see who can get over to the flag and who dies. And then you get points based on that. So if you make it to the end, you get a point. If somebody dies from one of your traps, you get a point. There's coins that you can place strategically around the level. And if you pick up a coin and get to the end, you get extra points. And so it gets a bit strategic. And it's like pretty simple, and it's a lot of fun. I was really enjoying it. I was playing with the kids and they do it. I believe it is local, and I think it does have online play as well. There's a few
I
different.
just watched a trailer and it did say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a few different modes. We didn't try all of them out. There's a way to share levels as well, which I'm kind of unclear on. I don't really understand, like, if you're just designing sort of the background and like the layout of the initial setup, because you're still going to be placing obstacles on top as you play. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. We didn't really try it yet, but I mean, I think it's currently on sale on PSN, if I'm not mistaken, but I was really enjoying it. Kind of a nice little pleasant surprise, and definitely a fun party game.
This felt like, when I looked at screenshots, this was a Kieran pick.
He hadn't heard of it previously.
Oh.
I thought maybe he might have seen, one of his YouTubers playing it, but he had not. So
Interesting. Okay, I guess that's it. Time to wrap it up. Check us out on youtube.com/GameJunk, on Twitter, FilmJunk, or for Sean, or My Angry Commute, and Equilibrium Sis for Huck. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.